Whoa, time for guest hosts. Whoa, it's time for guest hosts. Whoa, love the guest hosts. I just want a guest host.
It's episode Sweet 16 of Guest Host Raw, the series where I look at every episode of the guest host era of Monday Night Raw. We are churning along ever so graciously toward the next big pay-per-view, the inaugural Bragging Rights event. Whoopee! You might be saying to yourself, Raw versus SmackDown? What a concept! But we are going to find out just how we get further along into this inaugural event as we go into this episode of Raw. From October 15th, 2009 at the Conseco Fieldhouse in Indianapolis, Indiana. The guest host for this week is none other than the host of Access Hollywood, Nancy O'Dell. And Maria Menounous. She is also part of this show, but she is not officially billed as the guest host this week. So she's very much in the kind of Ken Jeong position to Nancy's Jeremy Piven, as it were. But will Nancy drop some kind of Summerfest-like botch? And will Maria Menounous be resorted to just making weird noises all night? Time will tell. The show begins right away, cold open to Chris Jericho in the promo zone, and he is describing what's going to happen in 2 weeks as if he's reading straight off a press release or Vince McMahon has literally possessed his body. This could have been a Vince statement as well, where he says, in 2 weeks' time, WWE will introduce a new pay-per-view called Bragging Rights, the concept of which being Raw versus SmackDown. In addition to the championship matches, the main event will be an epic 7-on-7 matchup to see who is the best of the best and which show is going to be the most dominant. And he says, as the tag team champion, I go between both shows all the time, but first and foremost, my home is SmackDown. I'm a proud member of the SmackDown roster. I'm a cornerstone of the brand. And he says he's been named as a team captain, and his assignment is to build a team that will, embarrass and humiliate and beat Team Raw at the pay-per-view. Then suddenly in comes the guest host, Nancy O'Dell, to no pop. And she said she's wearing a custom Colts jersey-style shirt. Still no pop, but she's like, with all due respect, Chris, you're not starting the show. It's D-Generation X. To a mild pop. That gets a reaction. And then Jericho goes, well, who are you? And she goes, I'm Nancy O'Dell, the guest host of Raw. Have a good night, Chris. Wow, we are off to a great start already. Ben Roethlisberger, Al Sharpton, who are they? This is entertainment. Well, actually, I don't want to say that. I don't want to infringe on the rival, Hollywood gossip show. But also, to my European viewers who are following along with this journey, I apologize, because if you didn't know who the last couple of guests were already, then good luck figuring this out. I barely know who they are. Then we go live to the arena, and we get the DX music, and Triple H comes out all by himself. No Shawn Michaels live this episode. We'll figure out why soon. But boy, Triple H looks so ridiculous. He looks like a big, obnoxious mascot right now because he's already wearing the shirt. He's got the stupid army cap. He's got glow sticks sticking out of his pants. He's got the book in the back of his pants. Do you have a t-shirt gun that's shaped suggestively as well that you can fire things off into the crowd while we're at it? And then as part of the entrance, since there's no Shawn Michaels, Triple H just brings in Mark Yeaton, the timekeeper, to be the stand-in. So he tells him to get his headset off and does the running around in a circle like Shawn does, and then to hand him the mic. And so then Yeaton's excused and everything, and Cole does, another similarity to Shawn, he's balding, which I thought was kind of mean to both individuals. Triple H is doing his spiel. No, Indianapolis, I said, are you ready? So Triple H says that Shawn's not here, and he's as upset as everyone else about that. He got the call earlier today that Shawn couldn't make it, so he says, well, I could, since we're the team captains, I could work on building the team myself, or I could do what any good friend would do, and I'm going to badger him on the phone on live television. Do y'all want me to call him? And so the fans want him to call in, so he puts the mic up to the phone as he dials, speed dial, HBK. So we get the dial tone, and then we get this MIDI version of Shawn Michaels' theme playing, and the outgoing message, it seems, is Shawn singing a version of his theme song, to the words tweaked to be about an outgoing message. I'm not at home, or on the other line, so leave your name and a brief message, and I'll call you back at a later time. I still think that my version on the Marine 6 review was better, but then, and Triple H's reaction to it, he's just, oh, ha, ha, it's so funny. He's singing over his words. He's such a good actor. And then Shawn picks up the phone. Oh, you didn't hear the outgoing message, did you? And they're, oh, no, Shawn, we didn't hear that. Then Shawn says, I'm sorry I couldn't be there this week. I had to stay home because my kid was really sick, and, I had to stay home and take care of her, but, she's doing better now. I just read her a story. And then Triple H goes, it wouldn't have happened to be from our new DX book, would it? And then Shawn's like, oh, yes, of course. What child wouldn't want to hear stories of their father shoving people's heads up other people's backsides? Like, that's the one story you're most embarrassed about in the story of DX, Shawn? Okay. And so then Triple H even shows a picture of it from the book as well. And then he says goodbye to Shawn. Shawn says goodbye to everybody. And then the H-Man continues. Suddenly, Jericho arrive. Of course, they got to come down. They got to interrupt and do something to meddle. So Jericho's like, look at you here without your best friend, or the offensive line from the Philadelphia Pittsburgh Steelers, whatever they're called. And then he goes in this big PR push about how great SmackDown is. Like, oh, it just celebrated 10 years. It's been on longer than Cheers and Seinfeld combined. And it's also better because Chris Jericho is on it. And so then Triple H is like, yeah, SmackDown is a good show. It's got a good GM that's very spineless, that does everything Vince McMahon says. It's good for having a whiny little troll on the show. And they have great wrestlers like the Great Khali. It's like, damn. Triple H, why you, look, I know the Great Khali is an easy target, but why would you bury that show so much and to be like, oh yeah, Great Khali's shit, right everyone? And Triple H says, Raw's better than SmackDown, and Jericho says SmackDown's better than Raw, and he points out, hey, look at my tag team partner, The Big Show. He's technically a Raw superstar, but, he wants to be on Team SmackDown because he thinks Raw sucks. And then Triple H is like, oh, so you let him speak for you then, Show? And then Show's just like, oh, no, Hunter, it's not like that. He pitches ideas to you, so he's the pitcher and you're the catcher. Show says that they're equals, and he goes, well, if I'm being honest, I'm the one carrying the team. Like, why would you say that in the middle of this? So then Jericho's like, what did you say? And then Big Show's like, you heard me, I didn't get pinned last week. And then Jericho says, well, I didn't become the mockery of Sports Center by getting punked out by Shaq. And then Show says, well, I got punked out by a 7-footer and not a 200-year-old man in Bob Barker. And then Jericho says, I already told you I will fight Bob Barker anytime, anywhere. I do like that is a running gag, that's the person he has the biggest beef with and everything. And Jericho puts over how he's rejuvenated Big Show's career since becoming his tag partner. Look at you, you're a new man. Now nobody remembers you as the guy who got knocked out by Floyd Mayweather at WrestleMania, which then pisses Big Show off again. They get back into it. Things are getting really chippy. And then Big Show's like, you know what? Triple H, I changed my mind. I want to go and be on the Raw team for bragging rights. And then Triple H is like, wow, that's great. Too bad we don't have any space for you. But then Triple H says, well, guest host Nancy O'Dell gave me the power to make some qualifying matches for bragging rights. What? The Nancy O'Dell, guest host of The Ultimate Power, 10 minutes into the show, has already outsourced her job responsibilities to Triple H? What kind of political bullshit is that? And Triple H goes, oh, I'm running things here anyway. You might as well give it to me. So he says that, Show's going to have to earn his way into Team Raw by beating his opponent here tonight, and that's Chris Jericho. And that match is happening right now. This whole opener until the commercial break took 17 minutes to get there. My God, it was agony. The boring, flat intro with Jericho delivering the press release, Nancy O'Dell coming in to no reaction. We have Shawn on the phone for the first of many times tonight. And why does this team continue to have this level of dysfunction? And why are they constantly booked as two of the dumbest characters on this show? Are you aware that Jericho are doing something, probably doing something totally different on SmackDown? Completely unrelated to this nonsense on Raw. When I saw them fighting against Rey and Batista at the last pay-per-view for the tag titles, I was like, holy shit, I was missing build for this match? Because it's awesome. It's way better than whatever they're doing on Raw. So then after the break, we've got this impromptu singles match between the tag team champions, which feels like it should be a bigger deal than it's being treated. I love on commentary, Cole says, bragging rights, it's all about which show is better. Who gives a shit which show is better? Can't you just both strive to be good? Anyway, they adhere to the code of honor at the start of the matchup, and the story here is that Big Show is just trying to be a pacifist. He does not want to fully engage with wrestling with Jericho. He doesn't want to hurt his friend and his tag partner, so he keeps saying, hey man, like, let's calm down, let's not do this. And Jericho, because he keeps wanting to size up to Big Show, he keeps wanting to try and take him down or hit him or whatever, and Show just has to keep batting him down and bringing him back down to earth because he's so much bigger and stronger and everything. And every time Jericho sells for a while, Big Show, brings him back in, tries to defuse the situation. Jericho hits him again. Big Show hits him back. This time, Jericho falls off the top rope and he seems to hurt his knee. As the match goes on, Big Show looks like he's starting to hold back tears. I'm like, is this the beginning of crying Big Show? Where is he just going to cry his way into a defeat in this match or whatever? Or maybe a win. But anyway, he's starting to hold back the tears. I thought he was going to cry when Jericho fell out of the ring because he goes out there to check on him as the referee's counting. Jericho tries to run back into the ring, but Big Show catches him, throws him back to the floor, then he gets in the ring to beat the count. So Jericho loses the match by count out. And now Big Show goes on to Team Raw. And Show shakes his head because he didn't want to have to do it that way. He didn't want to have to, fight him. Boy, I sure am confused by the motivations of Chris Jericho and the Big Show. Week to week, I feel that their story changes so much and they have this history they can build on and reference, but it is so just bad all around. They don't do anything notable. They just they stand there on Raw and they exist to have eggs thrown at them or to slip on a banana peel or to interact with the guest host, and it just means that nothing they do means anything. We go to the announcers. You could see Jerry Lawler is wearing a huge Lawler for Mayor t-shirt. I'm not sure that campaign really goes anywhere this time. Then they toss it to the special guest correspondent, Maria Menounous, and bam, this huge tight shot of Maria's face. It is super extreme. I was wondering, is it going to zoom out and wow, she's going to be held up in midair by some strong wrestlers or something. No, it just zooms out, a snap zoom out to reveal Cody Rhodes and Ted DiBiase, The Legacy. First time we've seen them since their Hell in a Cell match at the pay-per-view against DX. And it was just a weird choice. That whole shot was very confusing. So she says, do you feel you're ready to compete now that you're back? And so Ted says, I'm ready, but hey, at least I didn't get stretchered out of the building or whatever. And then Cody kind of snips at him why are we having more fighting teams? Is that going to be the theme all night? Teammates just fighting each other the whole time? And Maria asks them, do you feel you both deserve to be on Team Raw for bragging rights? And they said, sure we do. And she goes, well, that's not going to happen because the guest GM, Nancy O'Dell, she's made a triple threat match and the two of you, whoever wins between the two of you gets to go on to the team. But if the third person wins, then neither of you get on the team. And then Ted has this weird delivery where he's like, don't get cute. Wait. Who's the third man? I don't know what he was trying to say. Was he saying wait to the don't get cute? Because he thought Maria was cute? I don't know. The whole delivery was really weird. But he goes, who is the third person? And then she goes, John Cena. Good luck, guys. And then she walks out of the frame while Legacy stand there. What? Who produced this backstage segment? Talk about defying every norm that they ever had on this. Because you start out, bam, tight shot of her face and a zoom out instead of them walking into the shot like you've always seen interviews in this scenario be like. And then it ends with her walking out and them standing there instead of the other way around. I'm just blown away by how weird this promo feels. It's a couple of little differences, but compared to just the format they typically do, it's who put this one together? And then we go to a Divas Championship match as Mickie James defends against Jillian Hall. Wow, when's the last time we saw a one-on-one match featuring Jillian on this program? I don't think we've seen one yet. So anyway, early on, Mickie counters a monkey flip attempt. It's kind of awkward, but they do recover. She goes for the DDT early on, but Jillian blocks it. She tries to go for her face buster. Mickie blocks that. They work their way into the corner, and Jillian catches Mickie, does kind of a shitty power bomb off the second rope to her, covers her with her feet on the ropes for the dirty pin, and she wins. And Jillian Hall is the new Divas champion. Wow, that was a horrific match. And Jillian Hall's the new champion. I swear there's going to be a dusty finish where, oh no, look, like replay, and they're going to restart the match. Nope. Jillian's just the champion, and it just feels very awkward. The fans feel very deflated by this, but Jillian's she's shocked, she's screaming, she looks very happy. And then she says, I'm gonna sing my favorite song to celebrate, my new favorite Lady Gaga song. But then, suddenly, we hear that really familiar music of the guest host of Raw, Nancy O'Dell. She comes out, and she says, well, hey, hold your horses there, Jillian. I just got off the phone with the other GMs, and I have orchestrated a multi-brand diva trade across all the brands. So the good news for you, Jillian, is that you're staying on Raw. But the bad news is if you want to hold on to that championship, you have to defend it against this new lady right now. Why? Why is she trying to fuck over Jillian like that? But anyway, and she says, and this lady knows a thing or two about the paparazzi as well. And it's Melina, fresh from SmackDown, back onto Raw. And boy, she gets in there, she's making her entrance. Jillian Hall is just like, she's clutching the belt. She doesn't want to give it up. Like, no, it's mine, I want it. And finally, the match begins. She turns around. Melina goes for her leg split, leg drop thing, and Jillian falls away early, and it looks like absolute dog shit. And I'm like, oh no, this is not the finish, is it? It's just, no, that's not how they're going to end the match, please. And because I thought if that was the finish, that'd be the most amazing thing and the worst thing all at once. If that's what they did, thank God they called it audible, because that looked absolutely ghastly. They're like, nope, let's get up. Let's do the code red. Why not? I was like, if they just got up and tried to do it again, that'd be the funniest thing ever. But nope, code red instead. 1, 2, 3. Melina's your new champion. We had to put the belt on Jillian Hall for 2 minutes to transition the belt from Mickie James to Melina in the most god-awful way possible. I knocked over my water bottle and it's spilling everywhere in this rage I am feeling over this. I gotta cut for a second.
Hey Regretters, big news! I'm headed to Oberhausen, Germany this March to film a documentary all about WXW's prestigious 16-karat gold tournament. Click the link in the description or scan the QR code to learn how you can help support our adventure, get early access to the doc, exclusive footage, and limited edition merch. Thanks, and back to the video.
Welcome back to Raw, Melina. Sucks to suck, Jillian, and man, do I feel bad for Mickie James. Holy crap. I think her run in women's extreme wrestling was more honorable and dignified than this Divas Championship run. I saw it from beginning to end when she beat Maurice to this point here, and she had to have been one of the worst booked champions, anything of all time. What a shit run she had. She had some real fucking stinkers of a reign. She lost more than she won, and then she went out losing a botch-filled match that went under 2 minutes to Jillian Hall to serve as the transition for Melina. Well, that's just plain shitty. We come back from commercial and we are in the DX zone, and Triple H is now talking to Shawn Michaels on speakerphone, but now for blocking purposes, they have a Shawn Michaels cardboard cutout standing there that Triple H can talk to and the camera can pan over to establish that Shawn is talking. This is a very silly way to get around the fact that Shawn Michaels cannot be there, but they are doing the best they can. As they're talking on the phone, you've got DX version of Hornswoggle coming in, because you've got he's got the hair and the hat and the custom short HBK chaps. How do you get those made? That's very impressive. So anyway, Shawn isn't seeing this just yet. He's in the other room. And so as he's moving, Triple H is like, hey, I saw you last week. You were doing the DX chops. And you're dressed like this now. That's gimmick infringement, buddy. Shawn better not see this. And then Shawn does see it. And you hear him yelling ah, what are you doing? And then it just becomes this moment of zooms out to see all three where as if Shawn, the cardboard cutout, was yelling at Hornswoggle, which is a hilarious visual that they were trying to play off this is actually this proxy of Shawn is real. Because then Hornswoggle does a sweet chin music to the cardboard cutout and beats it up and stomps on it so much, and it was so damn funny. And then Triple H, he has to run down tackle Hornswoggle, and then Swoggle does some more crotch chops and leaves. What an insane scene this was. I mean, these guys had to have been having the time of their lives. I mean, this did get laughs out of me. It's just an absurd concept that they had to do this. It's a long way to go to work around Shawn Michaels' absence and keep him in the show and have it make sense. The fact they filmed it like he was the third man in the room while on speaker, it was funny. It was pretty bonkers. We then go to the Betty's Battle Zone. That is Nancy O'Dell's office for the evening. We see Santino Marella. He is reading the pages of WWE Magazine, and he says, "Wow, I can't believe I'm standing next to the sexiest superfan of the month from the magazine." Oh, and you are very sexy, by the way, Nancy. And so then he pitches, maybe I could become a new anchor for Access Hollywood. And he gives it a try, and he does this kind of like anchor read with a bit of a different voice. So then his old squeeze, Beth Phoenix, barges in, and she wants to give Nancy O'Dell a piece of her mind. What's this deal with the diva trade? Why did I hear I've been traded to SmackDown? This is outrageous. She doesn't want to be going to SmackDown. She threatens Nancy and that Greek Barbie doll, referring to Maria Menounous right there. Then Maria just kind of chimes in. It's like, well, I guess everyone's glad you're leaving. And then Beth just snaps. She shoves her against the wall and like grabs her face. Jesus, like how often do you see, that kind of thing with the guests? And so then start to threaten Maria, and then Santino tries to play peacemaker. Hey, let's calm down. Maria was just telling me that it's always been her dream to be a WWE superstar. And Maria's like, no, don't tell her that, Santino. That's sure to lead to disaster. And so he's like, well, why don't you two have a match? That seems like a good idea. And then Nancy's like, I don't know about that, Santino. And he goes, well, it's official. And he then Beth says, cool. Like, wait, time out. Santino's not the matchmaker. Who has ultimate power here? Is it Nancy O'Dell or is it Santino? Maybe that's the twist, is that Santino's been orchestrating this all along. He's the one with ultimate power. Holy shit, Santino is Jar Jar. I'm getting ahead of myself. Anyway, so Beth leaves, and then Santino hollers at her afterwards saying, when we were together being intimate, I faked every organism. Oh, you Italian scamp. Santino's totally Jar Jar. I'm totally running with that theory now. They show a recap of the John Cena-Randy Orton promo from the week before, where they make the Iron Man match for bragging rights. And then we go to the qualifying match for that pay-per-view. It's Child Ted and Cody Rhodes versus John Cena. Cena is essentially playing spoiler here for this matchup. He does not gain entry into the team if he wins. He just prevents either DiBiase or Rhodes from going into the team here. And so it is also technically a triple threat, but they definitely play it up as a glorified handicap match for the majority of this thing, because Cena is fighting 2-on-1. The numbers game is too much. Now you would think, after being summarily humiliated and made to look like absolute goofs in the main event of Hell in a Cell a couple of weeks ago, where they had this eons long 2-on-1 advantage with HBK before Triple H comes in and saves the day, you would think they would have learned their lesson and attacked Cena with a little bit more urgency, because they are taking their sweet ass time just beating him up some more. Have they learned nothing? We're getting some good body language from Ted as this match goes on. Like, he's got an intensity and an anger in his eyes that I'm not used to seeing. I wish we'd seen more of that from him as a wrestler, honestly. I think that was something he was really lacking for a while. There's a part where he and Cena go one-on-one, then Cody and Cena go one-on-one. Cena starts to fight back. He's got the STF locked in on Ted. Suddenly, Randy Orton, shiny as can be, he streaks into the shot to, not literally, he's not naked, but it's like he's like a streak because he's so shiny. So he runs up to distract Cena, and in the chaos, Cody just rolls up Ted to win the matchup. So Cody Rhodes has entered the bragging rights team for Raw, and immediately there's a big shouting match because Ted's pissed at Cody and Randy's pissed at Cody, but also trying to keep the peace between Cody and Ted. And there's all this shouting, and John Cena, meanwhile, is like, ha ha, I gained nothing from this. And so then we see Nancy O'Dell pop up on the big screen. And then she says, hey, we can see that Ted and Cody aren't getting along, but let's shake things up. Tonight, later on, I'm going to put you in a tag match against two people who really aren't getting along, in John Cena and Randy Orton. What? Why? To what end, Nancy? Are you really that much an agent of chaos here on this show? You want to continue to drive a wedge between Legacy and also just continue to build on this pressure with Cena and Orton, which, by the way, we've already done this story 2 months ago. Oh no, can they coexist? They show us the Indianapolis Colts sitting at ringside, and hey, get a look at that fresh-faced punter in Pat McAfee. I think that kid's going places. We then go to another bragging rights qualifying match as Jack Swagger takes on MVP. Well, hey, that's a guy he hasn't fought that recently on Raw. That was his first feud going into Raw when he was drafted. It was the whole classist thing, Swagger versus MVP. And so, the match goes on. There's this really funny point where the referee is just shouting at Swagger. It's like, don't kick him while I'm talking to you. Don't punch him while I'm talking to you. It's like, don't do anything. I'm talking to you, which means you can't do anything else. So Swagger works over MVP for a bit. MVP comes back. He hits the ball and elbow, and then Swagger attacks MVP's wounded arm. Oh, my arm! And that's enough for Swagger to hit gut wrench powerbomb, pin 1, 2, 3 in the center of the ring. Man, Swagger, he wins clean as a sheet. Continues his win streak that he talked about the previous week. But who the hell did MVP piss off to be treated like this, to be this completely bland loser of a babyface? It's booking malpractice is the best way to put it. It's same thing with Mickie James earlier. It just feels like some of these people are booked like there's a bias against them. Take a look at that lineup so far for Team Raw. Who's going to take up those final 2 CAW spots? Time will tell. Then we see backstage, Cody and Ted are shouting at each other some more as Randy Orton comes up to the two of them and tells them to stop doing this, to just stop the fighting, and he lays out the game plan. He says, I have no intention of tagging and teaming with John Cena. I'm not even going to let myself get tagged in. I'm just going to let John Cena stay in there while you two beat him up and tear him up for me. Is that understood? And Ted understands. Cody's kind of hesitant, and Ted's like, oh man, what are you thinking right now? You thinking you want to try and beat both of us in one night? And then Cody's like, oh yeah, well maybe you want to try and redeem yourself by beating Randy tonight. What do you think about that? And then Orton's just like, if either of you are thinking about that, please don't. But I am going to keep mental note of this for when I turn face on you next year. Another qualifying match for bragging rights as Kofi Kingston takes on Evan Bourne. Hooray! More friends fighting. That being said, this does have the potential to be a really good match. I thought to myself, and then we go to commercial break and we come back and the match is already in progress. That's kind of neat. Kofi goes for a leaping attack at one point, and Bourne just kind of jumps up to meet him there with a big kick to the head. Kofi with this big vaulting European uppercut, which was fun to see. We get an SOS and a kick out. Bourne going up top, but Kofi's getting up too fast, so Bourne jumps off. He gets back to jump off the middle turnbuckle, turns around, but he runs into just the tip, the Trouble in Paradise, for Kofi to pin and win. And he advances and joins the Raw team. It's a short and sweet match, but it's certainly the most exciting thing we have seen all night so far tonight. And then they also announced that, hey, the last member of the team will be determined later in the week on Superstars on WGN between Mark Henry and Chris Masters. Ooh, wow, I wonder who it's going to be. We go back to the DX zone, and we see now that HB Cardboard is sporting bandages on his head from getting beaten up by Hornswoggle in the previous segment. And there's a great line where Shawn's like, can I hang up now? It's been almost 2 hours. I thought that was really funny. Then suddenly in come Nancy O'Dell and Maria Menounous, and wow, Maria just happens to have ring gear ready for her. That's just really convenient. And so they're like, well, do you think she's ready? And Triple H says, of course she's ready. And she goes, well, all you did was just read her passages from the DX book for 20 minutes. And then he's like, you mean this awesome book right here? And Maria says, I don't feel like I'm ready, because all you did was teach me a couple of kicks and you had me put you in a head scissors for 15 minutes. And Triple H is like, but those were really good kicks. They're practicing those kicks when suddenly Chavo Guerrero walks in. And man, he's just wearing a t-shirt for the pay-per-view now. Damn, you hate to see it. So he says, hey, what are you and Hornswoggle up to? I saw him dressing up like you. And then Triple H says, hey, I don't like that troll anymore than you do. I'm thinking about suing him for gimmick infringement. Chavo says, I don't believe you. And then he's like, well, how come I didn't get to wrestle in a qualifying match tonight? What makes you so special? You get to pick the participants. You know, I'm better than this person. I'm better than that person. I'm a Guerrero, damn it. And so then Triple H just tells Maria, do a kick. And so she takes him to Dick Kick City, and then he just falls over, and they leave. You hear a really weird laugh from Maria.
That was nutty. Oh my God.
And then it all ends with the camera doing a slow zoom in on HB Cardboard, who then does the DX sign off at the end over the phone. What a very strange series of bits for these guys. Like, it's made even weirder because it is Cardboard Shawn Michaels, done over the phone. I think that in a different time, if this were done today, they would have gone like the Zoom route, which would not have been as funny, I don't think. So it worked to their advantage to make it weird, I guess, because, it would have been the same old if Shawn were there. But I think, it's the small things like that keep me invested, I guess. Well, thankfully, it's not a one-on-one match with Beth and Maria Menounous. It's a 6 Divas tag. You've got Beth Phoenix, Rosa Mendez, and Alicia Fox going against Gail Kim, Kelly Kelly, and the guest of the hour, Maria Menounous. And Maria's got some movie she's plugging called Serial Buddies, is what they did for the ring announcement. By the way, the plugs for the guests this week have been very subtle and, in fact, almost non-existent. Like when Nancy O'Dell came out live for the first time, she talked over Justin Roberts saying the name of her cause, Betty's Battle.
And founder of Betty's Battle, Nancy O'Dell.
So the match begins with Gail, Kim, and Alicia, and Gail's in there for maybe 30 seconds, and then she's done for the rest of the matchup. And then Maria comes in, and she's actually fairly competent. Like, she doesn't fall over herself, which is a good first thing. And, there is a bit of, like, moving to the next thing, before the next spot. But, for her first match, she was able to move around, and she bealed Alicia Fox, did a back elbow, like, hey, could have been worse. So Alicia fights back. She tags in Beth, who you get this moment where, like, she's standing over Maria, looking really intimidating, and Maria's looking frightened at first, but then she just kicks Beth in the stomach and tags out. And that was the only interaction they had. Like, so wow, that was a great payoff to what they alluded to earlier in the night. So Kelly goes on this big run with Rosa, and then Maria guillotines Rosa Mendez. That allows Kelly to hit her finisher on her, the cover, the win. And wow, that was 2 minutes surely well spent. Another easy payday for Gail Kim. Again, I'm sure she's just counting down the days till her contract is over. And Menounous didn't do a whole lot in this matchup, but I mean, she was in there longer than Gail Kim, and her shit looked better than Jillian Hall's tonight. So I guess I can't complain that much. In that respect, she's certainly one of the better guest performers so far in the series. Then it's time to hear from the new United States champion in The Miz. He's there in his street clothes, and he makes his way to the stage to make his grand proclamation. And he says, show some respect for the new United States champion. I said the new U.S. champion. He says, oh, I'm sorry, am I bragging too much? Well, get used to it, because I found out that in 2 weeks, I, the U.S. champion, will be facing my former tag partner, the Intercontinental champion, John Morrison, Light Pop. And he says that we were the tag team of the 21st century, and I, of course, was the talent of that team. And ever since I left him, he's just been like a hairdo with abs, which is a great line. But then he says he also calls Morrison the new Richard Simmons, which I think is a really weird insult, bang up timely reference in 2009, I guess. But he says, in 10 years' time, when you're still wearing bedazzled tank tops and hanging out with 400-pound women, I'll be representing the best brand in sports entertainment, Raw. Then he says his catchphrase. I don't understand the Richard Simmons thing. Like, I thought that was kind of weird. But besides that, it's a strong promo. I didn't even know Richard Simmons had abs. They announced that next week's guest host is none other than future WWE Hall of Famer Snoop Dogg. It's just too bad that episode's going to be in Jacksonville and not, say, California. That would make a lot of sense. But anyway, we then go to our main event, John Cena and Randy Orton doing the odd couple thing again, going against Cody and Ted. Orton is there in the ring with his opponents in the Legacy, as opponents / partners in general. And so he's got the microphone and he says, speaking of the celebrity guest host for next week, I talked to him on the phone earlier this evening, and I told him the truth, that next week will be John Cena's last night on Raw, and I will see to that at bragging rights. And so we agreed that for his final night on Raw, he's going to have one of the biggest matches of his career. But he doesn't say who it's going to be against before Cena's music plays and the match begins. They do say during his entrance, Cole does mention that it will be announced, during or after the matchup, I should say. But I'm like, wait a minute, can Snoop already make a match for next week? Like, doesn't Nancy O'Dell have the power to make a match for next week as well? Since, like, God, I swear, if I keep trying to make this make sense, my head's just going to explode. So the match begins. Orton stays on the floor for a lot of it. He has no intention of being a helper and tagging in for Cena here. So Cena's kind of going on his own for a bit. He fights out of this hold, and Orton's on the apron now, and he's kind of looking away. Cena slips out of the hold, and he just like smacks Orton to tag him in pretty forcefully. Doesn't throw him in like he did the last time they did this exact same story, though. And so Orton's in there now with Legacy, and we just get this series of like roll-up attempts where Cody and Ted are both trying to pin him. And so Orton says nuts to this. He tags out again to Cena. They're both making very intense, like veiny faces at each other, like necks bulging and all that shit. And so then Cena eventually gets back into it, starts hitting his moves of doom. Then Orton does a blind tag for himself on Cena. Why doesn't he not want to be in this match? But he puts Cena in the corner, starts punching him, and then Ted DiBiase just rolls him up and pins the WWE champion and his own like leader of his team. And so now Orton's lost his mind, and like now everyone's yelling at each other. He's in shock, but then he like turns around and he walks right into an AA from John Cena, who then gets super veiny at the end. He's like, he's like turning, he's over 9,000. He's like transforming. It looks hideous, but that's how he celebrates hitting the champion with the AA, and he's playing to the crowd. And then we get the announcement before we go off the air that Cena's opponent next week will be Triple H. And oh my gosh, Cena's like, oh, how am I going to fight Triple H? The guy who I've already fought a few months ago on Raw ended in a no contest. Now I got to do it again. Oh, and that's how we end the show. So again, we can't help ourselves from making repeat matches here on this show. But yeah, they're not doing a very good job building this tension and this dissension between the Legacy. Because a couple of months ago, they had something when they were like, oh, the build up with, Ted DiBiase Sr. and then Dusty Rhodes and him getting RKO'd and Cody being like, my father, doing all that. Like, I thought there was something there. And then they just dropped it and like didn't acknowledge it for a while. And now all of a sudden, like now that Legacy is back after losing to DX, now they're just kind of restarted this storyline again. And it just really comes from out of nowhere. And they don't remind you of any of this either. It's like, whoa, there's trouble. And they don't try to like show you the picture. It's really bad storytelling, how they just like don't lay out these details. Like, why did Nancy O'Dell put Cena and Orton together other than like for shits and giggles? Why did she put them against Cody and Ted? Like, what is with all these guest GMs and their seemingly coordinated efforts to like thwart and just destroy the Legacy and cause all this friction and all this stuff, whether they're family members or not? It's just like, fuck Legacy all day, all night. And it's just like, yeah, it's a very weird world they're building with these guest GMs. So that was an episode of Raw. I give the overall episode a score of 1.5 out of 5. It's very below average. So much boring and somewhat confusing writing across the board on this show. And like there's a lot of multiple storylines where tag teams are in strife, but I don't feel that was intentional, that they were all going to happen at once. They just kind of had these same ideas and they all happens on the same week. Oopsie. And the whole thing, like the whole heat of bragging rights is so dead. Like, okay, you're going to fight to see who's the best. What show's the best? Then what? They had so much time to come up with a then what, and they never came up with a then what. As far as the guest host, Nancy O'Dell, I have to give her a 2 out of 5. I think she had a fine stage presence. Like, her oratory skills are never in doubt on this show, but I just don't think her vibe fits very well with WWE and professional wrestling. I mean, on the same level as Reverend Al Sharpton. You can tell me till you're blue in the face that she is one of their best super fans, but I don't really believe you. Also, for someone who has all this ultimate power, she really had no problem like just doling that power out to other people and having them make matches for her. I thought that was particularly egregious. Maria Menounous, she doesn't have any executive powers, but she is kind of lumped in with the guest host for the week. And, she had a match. She was fine. She wasn't terrible. So points to her for that. Also, I have to give them props again for the things they were plugging being very subtle. They weren't too blatant or show-stopping. And after crunching the numbers and reassessing the all-time guest host rankings so far, I've decided to put O'Dell and Menounous in at number 11, just under Batista. But those are my thoughts, folks. What did you think about this episode of Raw? How about Nancy O'Dell as guest host, Maria Menounos' first WWE match? I want to hear about all that in the comments section below. Be sure to give the video a thumbs up if you like it, subscribe to Wrestling with Regret, hit the bell icon to get notifications for when more stuff like this drops. Next time here on Guest Host Raw, we are going to be in Jacksonville, Florida for that future savior of Night 2 of WrestleMania 39. I'm talking about the D-O-double-G, Snoop Dogg. That's next time right here on Guest Host Raw.